A lone man shared his blanket with a native girl on a freezing night. The next day, gold was found on his land. The sun had barely peeked over the horizon, and the twin moons cast a pale light that made the ice glitter like a sea of diamonds. In the middle of this frozen expanse, a small wooden cabin sat, leaning slightly under the weight of the snow. Its chimney puffed gentle wisps of smoke into the air, the only sign that life existed in this remote corner of the universe. Inside, Elias moved quietly, his boots crunching softly against the wooden floor. He was a man who had lived alone for months, ever since the colony's initial settlement team had moved on to other regions in search of richer mineral deposits. Elias had chosen this land for its silence, for the space to think, and for the challenge of surviving here, where the cold seemed to bite through every layer of clothing. He poured himself a cup of hot, bitter tea, savoring the warmth that seeped into his hands. His gaze wandered to the frost-covered window, tracing the patterns the cold had left. Out there, the world seemed endless and silent, but it was beautiful in a harsh, unyielding way. The wind outside grew stronger, rattling the cabin walls. Elias' eyes narrowed. It wasn't unusual for snowstorms to arrive without warning, but tonight there was something different, a faint, almost human sound carried on the gusts. A soft cry, barely audible, like someone calling for help. Elias hesitated. He had grown used to isolation. The thought of venturing into the freezing night unsettled him. But then the sound came again, clearer this time, a shivering voice pleading through the storm. Compassion, he realized, could not be ignored, not when someone's life might depend on it. Bundling himself in a thick coat and wrapping a scarf around his neck, Elias opened the door. The cold hit him like a living thing, sharp and biting. Snowflakes stung his cheeks as he stepped into the night, boots sinking into the soft powder. He followed the sound, each step carefully measured against the slick, uneven ground. Through the blizzard he saw her, a small figure hunched near a frozen creek, teeth chattering, body trembling. The girl was no older than 12, her hair matted with snow and her clothes thin, far from enough for the bitter cold. Her eyes widened when she saw him, a mixture of fear and relief shining through. "Are you okay?" Elias asked, his voice gentle, careful not to scare her. The girl shook her head, her lips blue from the cold. I got lost," she whispered. Her accent was strange, melodic, unlike any human dialect Elias had heard on the colony. Elias nodded. "Come inside, you'll freeze out here." For a moment she hesitated, staring at the cabin as if unsure she could trust him. Then, with a tiny nod, she allowed him to guide her across the snowy ground. The warmth of the cabin hit her like a wave, and she shivered less as Elias offered her his hand. Inside, he set her near the fire and removed his gloves. "You must be freezing," he said. "Here, take my blanket." The girl looked at him, eyes wide. She didn't speak, but the gratitude in her gaze was unmistakable. She wrapped herself in the thick blanket and warmth spread across her small body. Elias poured another cup of tea, this time handing it to her. She took it carefully, her fingers brushing his. They sat quietly by the fire. The storm outside howled, but inside there was a fragile sense of peace. Elias didn't know where the girl had come from or why she had wandered so far from her settlement. He didn't ask, questions could wait. Tonight, survival and kindness mattered more. Hours passed. The girl eventually nodded off, her head resting against the blanket. Elias watched her sleep, his mind wandering through the empty stretches of snow beyond the cabin walls. He thought of the countless nights he had spent alone, staring into the dark, wondering if anyone else would ever walk across his land. Now, here was proof that life could appear where he least expected it. As he settled into his own bed, he felt a quiet satisfaction, a sense of purpose he hadn't known since arriving on this desolate planet. The storm continued to rage outside, but inside, humanity, in its simplest form, had made a difference. One small act of kindness, one shared blanket, could change everything. Morning came slowly. The sun barely managed to lift itself over the horizon, its pale light filtering through the frost on the windows. Elias stirred, yawning, and noticed immediately that the girl was gone. He sat up, confusion and concern mingling in his chest. She had disappeared during the night, leaving no note, no sign of where she had gone. On the floor, near the edge of the rug, something caught his eye. A small, metallic crystal, glowing faintly with a soft inner light, pulsed like a heartbeat. He picked it up carefully, feeling warmth radiate through his fingers despite the cold. It was unlike anything he had ever seen, not human-made, not anything from the colony's standard resources. Curiosity sparked in him. Could it have been hers? Was it a gift, a token of thanks, or something else entirely? Elias set it on the table by the window and watched as its glow illuminated the frost in strange, shifting patterns. He didn't know that this small crystal was extraordinary, that it carried properties that could change the land itself. But instinctively, Elias felt it was important, and he couldn't ignore it. He wrapped it carefully in a cloth and placed it in a small box, tucking it under the bed for safekeeping. Elias spent the rest of the morning tending to his small farm, a few hardy plants, some water recycling units, and the solar panels that barely managed to catch the weak light of the twin moons. But his mind kept returning to the girl and the mysterious crystal. Something told him that this night, this small act of warmth and compassion might ripple far beyond his solitary life. By midday, the storm had passed. The snow sparkled under the pale sun, untouched and perfect. As Elias stepped outside to check the perimeter, he noticed something strange. The ground where the girl had crouched seemed different. The snow had melted slightly in a perfect circle, and the soil underneath had a faint shimmer. He bent down, brushing away the remaining snow, and gasped. Tiny veins of gold glimmered in the soil. Not much, but enough to be noticeable. Elias' heart raced. He had staked this land purely for survival, never expecting wealth or fortune. And yet here it was, revealed by some mysterious coincidence, or perhaps by something more extraordinary. He knelt there, staring at the gold, then at the glowing crystal under the blanket. A thought crossed his mind, both exciting and terrifying. Could his act of kindness have awakened something in the land? Elias didn't know yet, but one thing was clear. His life, until now simple and quiet, had just begun to change. The frozen night, the girl, the shared blanket, the glowing crystal, all had come together to create a moment that would echo far into the future. As he stood, brushing the snow from his coat, Elias felt a deep sense of connection to the land, to the girl he had helped, and to something larger than himself. For the first time since he had arrived on this lonely planet, he believed that humanity, even in its smallest acts of kindness, could leave a mark on the universe. And somewhere in the distance, a faint shimmer of light danced across the snow, as if the land itself had noticed, waiting for the next step. Elias could hardly focus on his work that morning. The tiny veins of gold sparkling in the soil had unsettled him in a way he could not explain. He had lived on this frozen land for months, thinking survival was the only goal. And now, suddenly, the land itself seemed alive in a way he had never imagined. He glanced at the glowing crystal he had tucked under his blanket. Its soft light pulsed gently, as if it had a heartbeat of its own. He carried it to the window and placed it on the sill. The sunlight caught its surface, scattering tiny beams of golden light across the frost patterns on the glass. The warmth radiating from the crystal made his fingers tingle. Curious, he reached out and touched it. Instantly, he felt a subtle vibration travel through his arm, a warmth that seemed to seep into the soil beneath the cabin. Elias stepped outside, holding the crystal carefully in his hand. The snow around him melted slightly wherever the crystal hovered. He watched in amazement as tiny shoots of hardy plants, buried under the snow for weeks, began to peek out from the ground. This was no ordinary crystal. Its power seemed connected to the life around it, to the very land itself. For hours, Elias walked through his property, moving the crystal from one patch of land to another. Snow melted under its gentle glow, frost disappeared, and the soil became soft and workable. By evening, his small plot had changed. The frozen land was no longer just snow and ice. Life was stirring again. He had just returned to the cabin when his survey drone, a small automated device he used to monitor the land, began to beep rapidly. Elias rushed to the screen and stared in disbelief. The drone had detected unusual mineral readings across his property, gold, hidden beneath the ice, as if waiting for him to find it. Elias' mind raced. Gold. He had thought he would live and die on this remote plot without ever discovering anything valuable. Yet here it was, revealed by some mysterious force. But he didn't feel greed. Instead, a deep sense of wonder filled him. Perhaps it wasn't just luck. Perhaps it was something else, something linked to the crystal and to the girl he had helped on that freezing night. The wind began to rise again outside, carrying with it a faint, familiar melody. Elias froze. The sound reminded him of the girl's voice. Could she be near? He hurried to the edge of his land, scanning the horizon. In the distance, near the tree line, he noticed tiny movements, small shadows flickering in and out of sight. Before he could react, a small group of native people emerged from the snow. Their clothing was made of layered furs and woven fabrics, designed for warmth, and their faces were partially covered to protect against the cold. They stopped a few meters away, observing him cautiously. Elias felt his heart beat faster. He had not expected visitors, and certainly not so soon after the girl had disappeared. One of them, an elder woman, stepped forward. Her eyes were wise and calm, and there was an authority in her posture. She held nothing in her hands, only the quiet confidence of someone who belonged to the land. "You helped her," she said simply. Her voice carried over the wind without raising it. "The girl told us of your kindness. We came to see the one who shared warmth when the world was cold." Elias nodded slowly. "Yes, she needed help. I didn't think, He stopped, searching for words. "I only gave her my blanket." The woman smiled faintly, a gesture that was both gentle and approving. "Your kindness awakened the land," she said. "What you hold is no ordinary crystal. It is a gift, a seed of life from this world itself, and your actions have made it respond." Elias frowned, trying to understand. "Gift, seed of life, you mean it's alive?" "Not in the way you think," the elder replied. "It is connected to the land, to the balance of life and growth. Humans who act with pure intention can awaken it. That is why the gold appeared. It was always here, hidden, waiting for a hand guided by care and respect." The other natives moved closer, watching Elias with curiosity and cautious admiration. They did not speak at first, letting the elder explain. He noticed that their eyes were bright, alert, and aware of the land in a way he had never experienced. These people had lived here for generations. They understood the hidden rhythms of life, the subtle signals that the land itself sent to those who listened. Elias felt a strange mix of humility and excitement. He had always believed that humans could endure any challenge with courage and determination. But this was different. Here was a lesson not in survival, but in harmony, in understanding, in partnership with the world around him. The elder gestured toward the crystal in his hand. "It will respond to your choices," she said. "It will grow stronger where life is nurtured and weaker where the world is harmed. You must decide how to use it." Elias' mind swirled with possibilities. He could use it to clear more land, to make it fertile, to ensure that his survival was easier. Or he could leave it untouched, fearing that too much change might upset the balance. But a deeper voice within him, the voice that had compelled him to share his blanket on that frozen night, urged him forward. I think I understand," he said slowly. "It wants me to help to make life flourish." The elder nodded. "Yes, but remember, the land will test you. It will ask for patience and observation, not haste, and you must always act with care. Elias spent the rest of the day experimenting cautiously. He moved the crystal across small patches of land, observing the effects. Snow melted gradually, not violently. Plants emerged slowly, bending toward the light. The soil became rich, soft, and capable of supporting growth. It was a delicate process, requiring attention and care, but it filled him with a sense of purpose he had never felt before. As evening fell, the natives gathered around the cabin, sharing quiet smiles and nods of approval. Elias offered them warm tea, which they accepted politely, and they spoke softly of the balance between humans and the land, teaching him lessons he could not have learned on his own. He listened intently, absorbing every word. For the first time in months, Elias did not feel lonely. He felt part of something larger than himself, a connection that bridged human and native understanding, a bond with the land, and a realization that small acts of kindness could ripple into something extraordinary. Later that night, as the wind died down and the twin moons hung low in the sky, Elias returned to the window. He watched the snow-covered plains, now subtly transformed by the crystal's influence. Tiny streams of water glimmered, plants swayed gently despite the cold, and the soil gleamed faintly with gold beneath the snow. He felt a mixture of awe and responsibility. The land had rewarded his compassion in a way he could never have imagined, but he knew this was only the beginning. There would be challenges ahead, decisions to make, lessons to learn, and a deeper understanding of the bond between humans and the world they inhabit. And somewhere in the distance, among the shadows of the trees, he thought he saw the girl again, a small silhouette watching him quietly, smiling faintly before disappearing into the night. Elias smiled to himself, feeling hope stir in his chest. The crystal, the gold, and the girl were all part of a larger story, one that had just begun. One small act of warmth had set it in motion, and now he was ready to follow wherever it would lead. The frozen land, once silent and unyielding, had started to sing a new song, a song of life, growth, and unexpected gifts. And Elias, a lone man who had only wanted to survive, realized that sometimes survival was not enough. Sometimes the smallest gestures of kindness could unlock the extraordinary. The morning sun rose slowly over the transformed land, painting the snow and newly sprouted plants with soft gold light. Elias stood at the edge of his cabin, holding the glowing crystal in his hands. Overnight, he had slept with one eye open, wondering whether the changes he had witnessed the previous day were temporary or permanent. The crystal continued to hum softly, a gentle warmth radiating into his fingers. He could feel the land beneath him awakening, responding to the quiet pulse of life he had helped nurture. A soft crunch in the snow made him turn. From the tree line, the small group of native people approached again, moving with careful precision. Elias welcomed them silently, offering a polite nod. This time they carried gifts, bundles of carefully dried herbs, small carvings of animals, and woven cloth. It was a gesture of friendship, a symbol of trust between human and native. The elder woman stepped forward, her calm gaze sweeping over the land. "The land has recognized your efforts," she said. "It responds to care, to understanding, but there is more to learn. Come, Elias, we will show you." Curiosity and excitement stirred in him. Until now, he had survived by himself, relying on his wits, instincts, and determination. But the natives offered something different, knowledge passed down for generations, insights into the harmony between life and land. Elias followed them without hesitation, leaving the cabin behind for a while. They walked through the snow to a small grove of trees, hidden by the dense forest that bordered Elias' land. The ground here was softer, more fertile, and a gentle stream trickled through, its water clear and bright. The elder gestured to the land. "This is where we teach those who are ready. You are ready, Elias. The crystal has chosen you, but now you must choose how to act." Elias knelt beside the stream, running his fingers through the cold water. "How do I learn from this?" he asked. The elder smiled. "By observing, listening, and acting with patience. The land is alive and it watches you as much as you watch it. Every choice has an effect. Every gesture matters." The other natives began to demonstrate simple rituals. They placed their hands gently on the earth, whispered to the water, and guided small seedlings into the thawed soil. Elias noticed that the plants responded immediately, leaves unfolded, roots anchored, and the soil seemed to warm beneath their touch. Elias was amazed. He had worked hard to survive in this harsh climate, building simple structures and protecting his small crops. But he had never understood this, the subtle ways life could be nurtured through intention and care. He realized that survival alone was not enough. True mastery of this land required respect, cooperation, and empathy. The elder guided him to a patch of soil where frost still clung stubbornly. "Try," she said simply. Elias hesitated, unsure what to do. He placed the crystal gently on the ground and watched. The light pulsed faintly. Taking a deep breath, he mimicked the gestures of the natives, hands hovering above the soil, gentle whispers, careful attention to the flow of life around him. Slowly, the frost began to recede. Tiny green shoots emerged, pushing through the snow, bending toward the warmth of the crystal. The natives watched him closely, nodding with quiet approval. "You have learned quickly," the elder said, "but this is only the beginning. The land will continue to test you. Growth requires patience, and patience requires trust." Elias nodded, feeling a surge of pride and humility at the same time. Here he was, a lone human settler, learning secrets that had been guarded by generations of natives. And yet they treated him not as an outsider but as a partner, someone worthy of sharing their knowledge. Hours passed. Elias worked alongside them, planting seeds in patches of thawed soil, guiding small streams of water toward the roots, and carefully observing the land's response. Every movement was deliberate, every choice intentional. By late afternoon, a small grove of green had emerged, surrounded by sparkling frost and tiny veins of gold peeking through the soil. The elder spoke again. "The crystal is a tool, not a treasure. Its purpose is not to give wealth but to reveal potential. Gold is only a reflection of balance, not a prize to be claimed. Remember this." Elias felt the weight of her words. He had seen the gold, had been tempted by its appearance, but now he understood that the real gift was life itself, the ability to transform the land and nurture it into something thriving and beautiful. As the day wore on, the native girl appeared, walking quietly behind the group. She no longer seemed frightened or lost. Her eyes met Elias's, and she gave a small smile, one that spoke of recognition and gratitude. Elias waved gently. She approached and whispered, "Thank you for your warmth, you are different." Elias smiled back. "I only did what anyone would do," he said softly, but inside he felt the truth of her words. He had acted without expectation and the land had responded. Perhaps this was what the elder meant: humans could achieve greatness not through force, but through understanding, care, and kindness. The evening came, and the natives prepared a small meal by the stream. They invited Elias to share it, and he accepted gratefully. They spoke quietly, telling stories of the land, of how it had been shaped by those who respected it, and of how humans and natives could work together to ensure balance and growth. Elias listened carefully, fascinated by the depth of their knowledge and their deep connection to life. When the meal ended, the elder took Elias aside. "There are challenges ahead," she said. "Others may come, curious or greedy, drawn by the gold. But remember, the land responds only to those who act with care. You must protect this knowledge, and you must teach others to respect it, not exploit it." Elias felt a weight settle on his shoulders. He had never been a leader, nor had he thought of himself as a teacher. But now he realized that the land had chosen him not only to care for it, but also to guide others in understanding its secrets. That night, Elias returned to his cabin, exhausted but filled with purpose. He placed the crystal on the table by the window and stared out at the transformed land. The snow shimmered, the streams glistened, and the tiny shoots of green swayed gently in the cold wind. He thought of the girl, of the natives, and of the delicate balance between humans and the world they inhabited. For the first time, he understood that survival was only the beginning. True greatness lay in connection, to others, to the land, and to the small acts of kindness that could ripple outward in ways he had never imagined. As he lay in bed, he felt a quiet excitement. The land had given him a gift, but it had also asked for something in return: patience, understanding, and respect, and he was ready to give it. Outside, the twin moons hung low in the sky, casting a silver glow across the land. The streams sparkled, the frost glimmered, and the faint shimmer of gold peeking through the soil caught Elias's eye. He smiled, realizing that the journey had only begun. The land, the crystal, the girl, and the natives were all part of a story larger than himself, a story that he was now ready to live, to learn from, and to help flourish. And somewhere in the distance, among the shadows of the trees, Elias thought he saw other small figures watching him. Curious, careful, perhaps even testing him. He understood that his actions would continue to shape the land and those who lived upon it. Every choice mattered. Every gesture left a mark. The frozen world had begun to change, and Elias, a lone man who had once sought only survival, had discovered a new purpose. A purpose not measured in wealth, but in life, in harmony, and in the quiet, glowing power of kindness. The land had accepted him, and in return, he vowed to honor it, to learn from it, and to protect it. The night deepened, silent except for the soft whispers of the wind. Yet in that silence, Elias felt a growing connection to life, to the natives, to the girl, and to the mysterious crystal that had appeared on a freezing night, changing everything. And he knew, with a certainty that warmed him more than any fire, that the story was far from over. The morning air was crisp and clear, carrying the faint scent of thawing snow and newly sprouting plants. Elias stood at the edge of his transformed land, the glowing crystal in his hand. Overnight, he had slept fitfully, thinking about the lessons the natives had taught him, about patience, observation, and the quiet ways the land responded to care. Today, he felt a new sense of responsibility. The land had gifted him life and opportunity, and now it was time to see how far he could help it grow. The elder woman and the other natives arrived soon after sunrise. Their eyes were calm, alert, and full of understanding. They had come to guide Elias through the next stage, a ritual to unlock the full potential of his land. It was not a ceremony of magic or superstition, but a careful process of observing, nurturing, and cooperating with the world around him. "You are ready," the elder said, her voice steady and clear. "The land has tested your kindness, your patience, and your understanding. Now it asks for focus and harmony. This ritual will take time. You must not rush it, and you must pay attention to every detail." Elias nodded, feeling both excitement and determination. "I am ready," he said. The ritual began in a small clearing where frost still clung to the ground despite the sunlight. The elder instructed Elias to place the crystal at the center of the space and to observe the natural flow of energy in the land. "The crystal amplifies what is already here," she explained. "It does not create life alone. You must guide it carefully." Elias placed the crystal gently on the soil. It glowed softly, pulsing in rhythm with the subtle vibrations of the earth. He followed the elder's instructions, moving slowly through the clearing, observing the plants, the streams, the soil. He noticed details he had never paid attention to before: the way water pooled in low spots, the slight tilt of a tree branch, the way tiny seeds sprouted beneath the snow. The natives guided him to arrange small reflective stones around the crystal, designed to focus sunlight and warmth toward the soil. Elias placed each stone carefully, noticing how the angle affected the light. He adjusted, tested, and observed. Slowly the frost began to melt, Streams of water grew brighter and tiny shoots of green emerged, bending gently toward the crystal's glow. Hours passed. Elias worked patiently, following the rhythm of the land and listening to its subtle signals. He realized that the process was not about speed or power, but about understanding and cooperation. Every movement mattered. Every choice left an impression. The girl appeared again, quietly watching from the edge of the clearing. Elias waved and she smiled. Her presence reminded him of why he had begun this journey. One act of kindness had set all of this in motion. The land, the crystal, and these people were connected through the simple truth that care and attention could transform the world. By midday, the clearing had begun to change dramatically. Small streams glistened in the sunlight, winding through the thawed soil. Tiny sprouts of plants reached upward, and the frost disappeared entirely. The crystal's light intensified, reflecting off the water and the new growth, casting warm patterns across the earth. Elias felt a thrill of awe. He had never imagined such beauty could exist here, in what had once been a frozen, barren landscape. The elder approached him. "Now you must act with wisdom," she said. "Use what you have learned to guide the land beyond this clearing. Extend the ritual slowly and carefully to all the areas you wish to nurture. Do not rush and do not force. The land will respond in its own time." Elias nodded. He spent the afternoon moving the crystal through his property, guided by the subtle signals he had learned to recognize. Frost melted in patches, streams flowed more freely, and plants began to flourish. Tiny golden veins glimmered beneath the soil, but he did not focus on them. His attention remained on life, growth, balance, and harmony. As he worked, he noticed small details he had never seen before. A cluster of seeds that had remained dormant began to sprout. A frozen stream widened, carrying life-giving water to nearby plants. Even the air seemed warmer, lighter, and more vibrant. Elias realized that the land was responding not just to the crystal, but to his care, patience, and intention. The girl joined him again, helping in small ways, following his instructions carefully. She pointed to a patch of frozen soil, guiding Elias to place the crystal's light there. He followed her advice, and within moments, shoots emerged, bending toward the warmth. Elias smiled. He realized that the natives were not just teachers, they were partners, helping him understand a world he had once thought he controlled alone. By evening, the ritual had transformed much of Elias' land. Snow was gone, streams flowed freely, and plants swayed gently in the wind. The soil was rich and fertile, glowing faintly with gold beneath the surface. But the most remarkable change was subtle, a sense of life and harmony that could be felt, not just seen. The land was awake, responsive, and connected in ways Elias had never imagined. The elder and the natives gathered around him, nodding in approval. "You have done well," the elder said. "But remember, this is not the end. The land will continue to grow and respond, but you must remain patient and mindful. Your role is not to control, but to guide." Elias felt a deep sense of pride, tempered by humility. He had never thought of himself as a caretaker, but now he understood that his actions mattered. One man, acting with kindness and intention, had helped awaken life on this frozen world. And he realized that humanity's greatest strength was not force or technology, but the ability to understand, nurture, and cooperate. As night fell, Elias stood at the edge of his transformed land, gazing at the streams, plants, and glimmering soil. The twin moons reflected on the water, casting soft light over the clearing. He thought of the girl, of the natives, and of the crystal that had appeared on that freezing night. A single act of warmth had led to all of this, a reminder that the simplest gestures could ripple outward in unimaginable ways. He returned to his cabin, exhausted but content. The ritual had shown him that patience, observation, and care could achieve far more than brute strength or hurried action. He placed the crystal on the table and looked out the window at the vibrant land beyond. Tomorrow he would continue, extending the ritual further, but tonight he allowed himself a moment of quiet reflection. The girl appeared one last time before he went to sleep, standing quietly outside the cabin. She smiled and waved, then disappeared into the trees, leaving Elias with a sense of connection and hope. He realized that he was no longer truly alone. He had companions, knowledge, and a land that responded to his care. As he drifted to sleep, Elias understood the lesson the elder had taught him. Growth, life, and balance required attention, kindness, and patience. The land had given him a gift, but it had also asked for something in return: respect and careful guidance. And he was ready to give it. The frozen world had begun to bloom, not because of force, but because of understanding. Elias had unlocked its potential through thought, observation, and simple acts of care. And somewhere deep in the soil, beneath the glimmering gold and the thriving plants, the crystal pulsed softly, a heartbeat of life in harmony with the world around it. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new lessons, and perhaps new visitors curious about the gold and the transformed land. But Elias no longer feared what lay ahead. He knew that with patience, observation, and kindness, humans could achieve greatness without harming others. The land, the crystal, and the natives had shown him that humanity's power lay not in domination, but in understanding, cooperation, and the ability to nurture life. And Elias, the lone man who had once shared a simple blanket on a freezing night, had discovered a purpose greater than survival. He closed his eyes, feeling warmth in his heart, and drifted into a peaceful sleep. Outside, the streams continued to flow, the plants swayed gently, and the frost melted completely, leaving the land ready for a new day. And somewhere, faintly, the girl's presence seemed to watch over him, a silent reminder that kindness could awaken life in the most unexpected ways. Morning broke over Elias' transformed land, painting the frost-free soil with a warm, golden light. Streams sparkled as they flowed gently between patches of thriving plants. Tiny sprouts stretched toward the sun, while veins of gold glimmered faintly beneath the fertile soil. For Elias, the scene was more than just beautiful. It was proof of what care, patience, and understanding could achieve. The previous day's ritual had expanded the land's life and energy, and Elias could feel it in every step he took. Each movement, each breath seemed connected to the land, and he understood that his actions had consequences, both visible and subtle. The crystal, still glowing softly on the table by the window, pulsed as if encouraging him to continue. The natives arrived again, moving through the now-thawed paths with familiarity and calm. The girl who had appeared on that freezing night walked beside the elder, her eyes bright and curious. She had grown slightly since the last time Elias had seen her, but the warmth in her smile remained unchanged. "You have done well," the elder said, her voice steady and kind. "The land responds to your care, but now the world around you will notice. Others may come, drawn by curiosity or greed. You must be wise in how you use this gift." Elias nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility. He had survived alone for months, but now he was part of something larger, a partnership between humans, natives, and the land itself. And he knew that with great opportunity came the need for careful decisions. As the morning progressed, visitors from neighboring settlements began to appear. Some were drawn by rumors of the crystal, others by whispers of gold hidden beneath the snow. Elias greeted each politely, offering tour of the land and explaining what he had learned from the natives. He spoke of patience, observation, and the power of small acts of kindness. Many visitors were skeptical at first. They had come expecting wealth and treasure, but Elias showed them instead a thriving ecosystem, streams that nourished plants, soil that supported life, and the quiet pulse of energy that seemed to flow through every living thing. Slowly, they began to understand. The real reward was not the gold hidden beneath the surface, but the harmony and vitality of the land itself. The girl stepped forward and guided some of the visitors to small seedlings, demonstrating the careful techniques she had learned from Elias and the elder. Her presence was a reminder that the gift of understanding could be shared, passed on through teaching and collaboration. Elias watched them, feeling a deep sense of fulfillment. One small act of kindness had grown into a ripple, touching many lives in ways he had never imagined. The day stretched on with activity and quiet learning. Visitors and natives worked side by side, guided by Elias' careful instruction and the elder's wisdom. Together, they extended the land's transformation beyond the clearing, creating fertile patches, clearing streams, and nurturing growth. The land responded eagerly, each area coming alive under the combined care of humans and natives. Elias reflected on the journey that had brought him here. He had arrived alone, seeking survival and perhaps a quiet life. But through empathy, patience, and understanding, he had unlocked something extraordinary. The land had recognized the goodness in his actions, the natives had shared their knowledge, and the girl's presence had reminded him of the power of small gestures. By evening, the transformed land was a vision of balance and life. Streams glimmered under the twin moons, plants swayed gently, and the soil, rich with nutrients and gold, seemed to hum with vitality. The natives gathered for a quiet ceremony, not of magic or worship, but of gratitude and acknowledgement. Elias stood among them, feeling a sense of belonging he had never known in months of solitude. The elder spoke once more. "This land is alive, and it thrives through care and respect. You have shown that humans can act with understanding and compassion. Your choices have created life, and your actions will be remembered." Elias felt a warmth in his chest, deeper than any fire or sunlight. He realized that humanity's strength was not in force or technology alone, but in the capacity to nurture, to observe, and to act with empathy. One act of sharing, a simple blanket on a freezing night, had changed the course of his life and the life of the land itself. The girl approached him quietly, her eyes shining. "Thank you," she said simply. "Because of you the land is alive again." Elias smiled. "No, it was all of us, the land, you, the natives, and me. We worked together." Her smile widened and she nodded. "Yes, together." As the night deepened, Elias walked among the newly transformed fields. He touched the soil, watched the flowing streams, and listened to the soft rustle of the plants in the breeze. Each movement, each sound, was a testament to collaboration, understanding, and care. The land had given him a gift far greater than gold, the knowledge that humanity could shape the world positively, without harm, through simple acts of kindness and mindful attention. Word spread quickly across the settlements about Elias' land. Some came seeking guidance, others simply to witness the transformation. Elias welcomed them all, teaching the lessons he had learned: patience, observation, and respect for life. The crystal remained on his table, glowing gently, a reminder of the night when a simple act of kindness had begun it all. Over time, the land flourished beyond anyone's expectations. The streams carried fresh water to every corner, the plants thrived, and the soil shimmered faintly with gold beneath its surface. Humans and natives worked together, learning from each other, sharing knowledge, and ensuring that the land remained balanced and healthy. Elias never forgot the first night, the freezing storm, and the small girl who had appeared in need. That moment of empathy had been the spark that ignited everything else. And he knew that it was proof of something greater, that humanity, when guided by kindness and understanding, could achieve remarkable things. Years passed. The small settlement grew, not through conquest or greed, but through cooperation and care. The land remained fertile and vibrant, a living testament to the power of thoughtful action. The crystal continued to glow, a quiet heartbeat of life, reminding everyone that they were connected to the land and to each other. Elias often walked the fields at dawn, reflecting on the journey that had brought him here. He thought of the girl, now older, guiding younger generations, of the natives sharing wisdom, and of the land alive and thriving, a symbol of harmony and balance. One small act of sharing a blanket had led to a transformation that no one could have predicted, proving that even the simplest gestures of humanity could ripple outward to create extraordinary change. At night, as the twin moons shone over the thriving fields, Elias would sometimes see the faint shimmer of the crystal reflected in the streams, glowing softly in acknowledgement. It was a quiet reminder that kindness, understanding, and patience were powerful forces, capable of awakening life in the most unexpected places. And so, the story of Elias, the lone man who had once shared a simple blanket on a freezing night, became a legacy of humanity. A legacy not of wealth, not of conquest, but of empathy, collaboration, and the quiet strength of the human spirit. The land, the natives, the girl, and the crystal remained connected, thriving together in harmony. And for Elias, the greatest reward was knowing that one person, through a small act of kindness, could indeed make a lasting difference in the world. The frozen world had become alive, and humanity, in its simplest and purest form, had made its mark.